Teachers, what was the best smartass response from a student you have heard? I'm not a teacher, but I had a friend in school who was always pretty dramatic. She actually did have vibes though. So we are in this bitchy teacher's class, and she keeps asking to use the bathroom. The teacher says no. My friend's like, I have vibes though, and the teacher is like, tell me what those initials mean, and I will let you go. So she screams it means I have to shit, and takes off out of the room. A more common version of this is girl, can I use the bathroom? Male teacher, yes girl, picks up bag. Male teacher, loudly, why do you need your bag? To go to the toilet. I once saw a girl answer something like, cause some of us bleed from our vaginas, want me to get you proof? He just apologized and never made the same question to anyone again. A kid mocked me when I said, don't do that. I started to yell at him and he said, no man, that's his song. He then spontaneously came up with a rap song called Don't Do That, and his friends started making beats. I was no longer mad. Does this work for being pulled over? A fellow student in my class shouted that it was fucking freezing in the classroom. The teacher naturally told him not to use the F word, so the kid replied, it's fucking cold in here. Had my class of working class kids at an art gallery. As we waited for our tour to begin, we played on the small playground near the door. A prep school kid in a uniform approached two of my boys and said, I bet I'm smarter than you are. I watched to make sure no blood was drawn. My students can hold their own pretty much anywhere, and they don't accept insults casually. But they were cool. No, you're not. Are you in grade 2? The boy said he was, and one of my boys said, so then we're all grade 2. So we are all grade 2 smart. He went back to climbing the monkey bars. But the prep school kid continued. I know I'm smarter. Let's do some math, and I'll prove it. The toughest kid in my room looked this guy square in the eye and said, well, I'm smart enough not to do math when I'm having fun on a playground. I had a woman accuse me of sexual harassment in a French class for civil servants. We were just casually trying to have a conversation in French when the teacher asks me, in French, have I ever eaten a beaver? This was in a tour, and during Winterfest they sell a pastry called a beaver tail. So I respond, incorrect French, what kind, thinking of the animal or the pastry. Most people were laughing, and this one woman throws a book at me and stomps out of the class. I kind of wondering WTF. When it dawns on me, okay, oral sex on a woman. Anyhow, this woman reports me and tries to get me kicked out of the class. She ended up leaving the class, and I found out later she was notorious for bringing sexual harassment suits against fellow employees. I witnessed a rather sad one. In my chemistry class sophomore year, one of my friends was going through some family issues, and his dad just left for a year or so. The kid was acting up in class and the teacher was like, do you want me to call your dad? And he was like, if he picks up tell him to come home soon. I had a friend who told the teacher he wasn't going to be able to come to an after school event. She started fussing at him, telling him that he wouldn't ever to make it college because of how irresponsible he was. When she finally asked why he couldn't come, he replied, my house burned down. A kid in my math class would sleep on his desk. One day the teacher called on him to answer a problem on the chalkboard. He woke up, solved the problem on the board with zero difficulty, and then just went back to sleep. The teacher repeated the same thing a few times with similar results, and then just let him sleep the rest of the year. I had really awful periods through most of middle and high school. I had one teacher in grade 8 that refused to let me use the bathroom and said I was goofing off. He threatened to call my parents, so I told him to go ahead. Well, my dad answered and said I will be there in 20 minutes. He came into the school with a box of tampons for me and then proceeded to make my teacher cry in front of the whole office. My teacher was 50-plus-year-old man. My history teacher would spend half the class making jokes directed at the students. One student in particular always took the jokes on the chin and never really made any comebacks. Eventually, the teacher called him out and jokingly lectured him about standing up for himself. He ended his rant with, "You've gotta be a man. You've gotta be like me." The student replied with, "Well, which one? Do you want me to be a man, or do you want me to be like you?" Edit. For those wondering, this happened back when I was in high school in the late 80s. It's one of those moments I will never ever forget.